warmer weather is when we tend to see an uptick in violence, unfortunately, in the city. And last night in Chicago, certainly no exception.
Yeah, police are investigating at least 7 different shootings since 9 o'clock last night. An 18-year-old is in the hospital after police say someone shot him while he was walking with a group of friends. This happened around 11:30 last night on Hobby and Cambridge on Chicago's near north side. The teen is expected to recover. Our nonstop news crews saw officers inspecting a gun at the scene. Police say the shooter got away, but they are talking to a person of interest. And in the South Loop, one man was shot by several people police say were breaking into his car. Now, this happened on Wabash near Cullerton after 3 a.m. You can see the front window blown out here at this building. Police taped off the front of the building as they looked for evidence in the street. No word yet on that person's condition.
And a little further south in Englewood, a man was shot several times at this Citgo gas station. This is 63rd Street, right off the Ryan and the Skyway, if you know that area. Police say 3 men with guns came up to the car he was parked in at around 2:15 this morning and shot the 37-year-old. Then he ran off. The man was hit in the back and elbow. He's in good condition. We're told police still looking for that gunman.
There's some levels of concern that I still do have. I mean, look, my administration, I've worked tirelessly to keep people safe, and we're building a safer Chicago.
What? What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel, and most importantly, please make sure that you are following me on Telegram at CD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. With the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today, we have to head on over to the People's Republic of Chicago. Why is that? Because I want to take a moment to discuss the response from Emperor Brandon Johnson when he responded to Donald Trump stating that he was going to clean up Chicago next. Yes, in a recent press conference that Trump did in the White House, when he was discussing all of the success that they're having with the National Guard reducing crime in DC, Trump pivoted and stated Chicago is next, as well as a handful of other cities, but definitely Chicago. And that would be a beautiful thing if he is able to do that and clean the streets of Chicago up. So what I want to do first is that I want to actually get into this clip here of when President Trump made the statement, and then we will get into what Brandon Johnson has to say and all of his fake crime statistics saying that crime is down when we all know that that's not really the case, right? But first, let's get into what President Trump has to say.
I really am honored that the National Guard has done such an incredible job working with the police, and we haven't had to bring in the regular military, which we're willing to do. We have to. And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. And it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one. But they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please. I did great with the black vote, as you know, and they want something to happen. So I think Chicago will be our next, and then we'll help with New York, and we're going to help with, and I think a lot of these people that you see on television, they are, including the people in this audience, they'll say bad things about me, and then they'll say, thank God he's here, because half of them got mugged, and they don't want to get mugged again. But they're, you know, they work for stupid people that are radical left, and they're made to do things and say things that they don't want to be saying. But the people right here are all happy because you're not going to be mugged in Washington, D.C. anymore.
First off, I have to say, shout out to, I hope I'm not saying the organization name wrong, because I know exactly who you guys are. I believe it's Flip Chicago Red. Many of you guys are familiar with Flip Chicago Red. That's the organization and the women, the African-American women, as he says, that he's talking about. Right? I know precisely who he's talking about. I'll put the picture up of them while I'm discussing this. You know, just shout out to them. You guys have come a long way, and you now have the ear of the president of the United States. So that's really dope. That's an organization out of Chicago that's doing the best that they can to flip Chicago red. But going back to what Trump was saying, you know, he's looking to spread this to Chicago. And because Brandon Johnson, the emperor of the People's Republic of Chicago, is a lunatic, obviously he doesn't want that. I'll never forget what one of you guys put in the comment section at the top of the year when Trump was inaugurated. And, you know, in one of my videos, I don't recall which video it was, somebody stated the Democrats' biggest fear is that Trump will actually, quote, make America great again. That's their biggest fear, because Democrats thrive on chaos. They thrive on chaos, and then they play off that chaos to say that some way, somehow, the chaos that they're creating in their own cities with their own DNC policies, some way, somehow, that chaos exists because of some sort of ism or some sort of phobia, whether it be racism, sexism, homophobia, ageism, whatever. That's what they'll flip it to, once again, despite the fact that when you're talking about a city like Chicago or Los Angeles, it's Democrat dominated from top to bottom, not just on a city level, but on a state level as well. And it's been like that for decades and decades on end. But somehow an ism and a phobia is the cause for it. And for whatever the reason being, the people go for it and they keep voting these guys in. But once again, chaos and dysfunction and degeneracy is what Democrats thrive on. That's why Trump, quote, making America great again and, you know, reducing crime at a rapid pace is such a horrible thing for them. It makes them look bad and it makes them look insane, because, you know, as it pertains to a place like DC, what are you telling me? Now that the streets are clean and all the homeless have been, you know, swept up and put away wherever they are. I don't know what they did with the homeless people, but they're not roaming the streets of DC. Doesn't look like anymore. So what? Once you get back into office, homeless infestation all over again, migrant crisis all over again. You get what I'm saying? Like that's just insane. That's just complete insanity, right? Let's pivot over to Brandon Johnson real quick, because I don't want to lose my train of thought, because I can feel myself losing my train of thought. Let's get to Brandon Johnson and his response. So allow me to pull this video down and pull his response up. Okay, so this is what Brandon Johnson had to say before I lose my train of thought. So the emperor of the People's Republic of Chicago, he put this up as a response. This is what he stated. I'll zoom in a bit. Mayor Brandon Johnson, investing in our communities is what makes our city safer. There are many things the federal government could do to help us reduce crime and violence in Chicago, but sending the military is not one of them. And then he posted this up and went through a couple of stats. And I want to read those stats off, and I want to kind of just show you how stupid Brandon Johnson is, right? And how Democrats thrive off chaos. So he put this up. Brandon Johnson stated, unlawfully deploying the National Guard to Chicago has the potential to inflame tensions between residents and law enforcement when we know the trust between police and residents is foundational to the building of safer communities. Well, then why do Democrats demonize law enforcement at every opportunity they get? Since 2020, all you guys do is demonize the police, and now you're demonizing federal law enforcement. You guys did that. Like, that's what, once again, they thrive off chaos. They thrive off degeneracy. This is what they thrive. They create these issues and then pretend as if it's some external force that created it, and now we're here to solve it when they're the ones that created it. Can you believe the audacity of what he just said? Trust between police and residents is foundational to building safer communities. Once again, this is a trust that you guys eradicated. Trump didn't do that. Conservatives / Republicans / MAGA didn't do that. Literally, you did that. You all love chaos, but I digress. This statement continues to read, an unlawful deployment of the National Guard would be unsustainable and would threaten to undermine the historic progress that we have made. That is a lie, and I'll show you why that's a lie in a moment. So now he put in big bold letters, in this past year alone, we have reduced homicides by more than 30%, robberies by 35%, and shooting by almost 40%. As we've gone through over and over again concerning information regarding like the police department in Washington, D.C., intentionally reducing crime levels, meaning that if they come to a situation where they're arresting someone and it's a clear felony aggravated assault, there is a commander that has been put on suspension because he was downgrading these crimes to misdemeanor, if not just simply not reporting the crimes at all whatsoever, instructing officers to just not report the crime at all whatsoever.
A D.C. police commander is under investigation for allegedly making changes to crime statistics in his district. Tonight, the police department confirms Michael Pulliam was placed on paid administrative leave in mid-May. And the police union accused the department of deliberately falsifying crime data. News 4's Paul Wagner has the story tonight.
Well, hi there. The D.C. Police Union is putting its allegations on the record tonight, claiming police supervisors in the department are manipulating crime data to make it appear violent crime has fallen considerably when compared to last year. As for the union's allegations, Chairman Greg Pemberton laid it all on the table.
When our members respond to the scene of a felony offense where there is a victim reporting that a felony occurred, inevitably there will be a lieutenant or a captain that will show up on that scene and direct those members to take a report for a lesser offense. So instead of taking a report for a shooting or a stabbing or a carjacking, they will order that officer to take a report for a theft or an injured person to the hospital or a felony assault, which is not the same type of classification.
Greg Pemberton says the police department's command staff is focusing on two categories in order to get the numbers to fall. They are armed with a dangerous weapon, an injured person to the hospital.
When management officials are directing officers to take reports for felony assault, or if they're going back into police databases and changing offenses to felony assault is not a category of crime that's listed on the department's daily crime stats. It's also not something that's a requirement of the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program. So by changing criminal offenses from, for example, ADW bat or ADW gun to felony assault, that would avoid both the MPD and the FBI from reporting that as a Part 1 or a felony offense.
Pemberton says the union has been gathering evidence for some time now by looking at reports and talking with officers all over the city.
What we've heard through our members and through members of management that are willing to talk with the union is that this is a directive from the command staff, is that they want to make sure that these classifications of these reports are adjusted over time to make sure that the overall crime stats stay down.
As of last Monday, when we spoke with Pemberton, D.C. crime data shows violent crime was down 28%. Today, the department's website says violent crime is down 25% when compared to the same time last year, and overall crime is down 8%.
That's preposterous. There's absolutely no way crime could be down 28%. Last year, they suggested that it went down 34%.
This is how crime is down in these major cities. These people are liars, but let's pretend that this is true for the sake of argument. For the sake of argument, we're going to pretend that these stats are true. In this past year alone, we have reduced homicides by 30%, robberies by 35%, and shootings by almost 40%. All right. Now, remember his stats because we're going to come back to this later on, but I want to finish reading the rest of Emperor Brandon Johnson's statement. So he would go on to say, we need to continue to invest in what is working. Hilarious. Our communities are safest when we fully invest in housing, community safety, and education. The National Guard will not alleviate the housing crisis. Once again, a crisis that your nonsense DNC policies create. You see how they love chaos and havoc? See how their policies destroy their own city and they pretend like it's an external force that did it, that they must now solve, even though they're the ones that created it. It is unbelievable how these people operate. Wicked is what they truly are. It will not put food in the stomach of 1 in 4 children that go to bed hungry every night in Chicago because of our poor DNC policies. And in closing, the National Guard will not fully fund our public schools or provide mental health care or substance abuse treatment to Chicagoans in need. The National Guard is no substitute for dedicated law enforcement and community violence interpreters who know and serve our communities every day. There are many things the federal government could do to help us reduce crime and violence in Chicago, but sending in the military is not one of them. Let me show you very quickly why Brandon Johnson is stupid and why all these Democrats are truly lunatics indeed. First of all, let's talk about Chicago being safe and crime is down. Look at this video here. I'm not going to play the sound on this video, but I will show it to you. It says crime may be down in Chicago, but these young lads who run with the Bridgeport chapter of the Satan Disciples, wow, Satan Disciples, are showing their gang still own the streets in the 11th ward. The extended mags and the bottle of hooch allows these misunderstood youth to get drunk and terrorized. I don't know what a bottle of hooch is, but yeah, this is what's going on in Chicago right now. The city that is just so safe, right? It's just so safe. Crime is down, but you have guys like this running the streets, right? Guys like this running the streets, running the city of Chicago. Understand what you're looking at right now on the screen. Unfortunately, and it is very unfortunate, but this is extreme mental illness. This is an extreme mental illness that, you know, investments in the community doesn't solve. Investments doesn't solve this, right? Programs, you know, and free programs in the community, that doesn't take care of this. This is a cancer that has to be rooted out by force. Force is the only thing that removes this. Force removes this, and force makes it so these individuals are scared to come outside, just like what we see in El Salvador with President Bukele. They're scared to come outside and do this stuff. So now they know if they want to come outside, you have to act like a normal human being. And when you're acting like a normal human being on a regular basis because you're scared to go to jail for an extended period of time because of foolishness, well, then at a certain point, being a normal human being just becomes a part of your culture. And then the stuff comes to an end. But as long as you want to play games and pretend that whatever little programs that you're investing in is going to stop this, then this will always continue. And this is precisely why in DC, we're seeing crime plummet in record time. Look at this here from the DC Police Union. Once again, these are stats coming from the DC Police Union. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit more. DC crime since the announcement of federal control versus the 7 days prior. Robbery down 46%. Carjackings down 83%, car theft down 21%, violent crime down 22%, property crime down 6%, all crime overall down 8%. Understand, this is in a matter of 7 days. While Idiot Johnson is over here bragging about his fake manufactured stats on how in this past year alone, we have reduced homicides by 30%, robberies by 35%, and shootings by almost 40%. While he's bragging about these fake manufactured stats that he has up here, because they're not actually reporting crimes over there, he's claiming that this was done in the past year alone, in the last 8 months, 7 months, we'll say. This is what he's been able to do in 7 months. These same numbers that you're posting here is what Trump is posting here and was able to do those same numbers in 7 days. 7 months versus 7 days. I'm going to say it again. 7 months versus 7 days. What Trump is proving to you all is that if you actually want to reduce crime, you actually want to do away with criminals, if you actually want to make your streets safe, it's very much so possible. It's not rocket science. You just put the bad guys in jail, you pursue them, and you get them out of here. Trust me when I tell you, The cops know who they are already. They know where they are already. They know all the hangout spots. They know all the meetup spots. They know where to get them at. They're just told to stand down and not to do it. But if you let the dog off the leash and allow the authorities to actually do their job with the intent on reducing crime seriously by getting the bad guys off the street and locking them up, then this is how you get these numbers in 7 days. Once again, robbery down 46%, carjacking down 83%, car theft down 21%, violent crime down 22%. And then you have Idiot Johnson over here rattling off the same numbers saying, in this past year alone, look at what we've done. Look at my fake stats in this past year alone. Dummy. Trump was able to do that in 7 days. 7 days. These people are not serious. Democrats are 1000% unserious. And you want to get in office again to do what? Unleash crime onto the street? Unleash the homeless onto the street in DC? Open the border back up again? What in the world? I say this almost every video, and I'm going to keep saying it. I don't understand why people vote Democrat. I truly don't. I truly don't. I want to play this last video in closing. And any of you that are from DC and are familiar with this area, let me know if what this man is saying is true indeed. This is a man in DC who's going to be riding down the street, and apparently it's squeaky clean, and it's never been like that before, at least not in decades. Not a homeless man in sight, not even a piece of paper on the floor. I'm not from DC. I'm not familiar with this area, but this guy that's getting ready to speak is ecstatic over what Trump has been able to do in DC. So I want to play this video for you guys next in closing.
We in Northeast DC. This is Rhode Island Avenue. I'm not even exaggerating. I mean, I've traveled this road hundreds of times. There's not even a piece of paper. There's not a bottle. I've been riding Rhode Island Avenue for about 2.5 miles. I have not seen one piece of paper in the street. Nobody hanging out. There's no litter on the street. And this area has never been this has never really been a nice area in DC. Wasn't terrible, but it definitely wasn't somewhere that you would deem a good part of DC. And just look at it. Nobody hanging out. Just clean.
Can somebody explain to me why what this man's saying is a bad thing? Democrats want to be empowered to do what again? You want to do what? This man is ecstatic over the fact that DC is clean. No homeless, no goofballs hanging out in the street, being stupid, just hanging around, looking for trouble to get into because they're scared to come outside, those who haven't been caught. Why is this a bad thing? Democrats are actually fighting to put the homeless back on the street. Democrats are actually fighting to throw gang members back out on the street. Democrats are actually fighting and advocating for crime. This man is ecstatic. And when a Democrat president gets back into office, and eventually it will happen, this is going to be over. It'll be over. Trash all over the place all over again. Graffiti all over the walls all over again. Morons hanging out looking for trouble all over again. Homeless everywhere all over again. Democrats are the devil, man. And you can't tell me different. You truly can't tell me different. And with all that being said, that is it for today's news. So I want to thank you guys for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video on your social media platforms. And please do not forget to follow me on Telegram at TD Media Group. Link to my Telegrams in the description box below and pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. And until the next video, peace and have a great and safe afternoon.